Welcome into another edition of Gas. I am Gresh. He is Jason Anik.
You were playing everybody and we're winning the game last night.
The head coach is fighting people on the sideline.
What do you got for me?
I know you're a part of the Tight Pants Society.
No fucking play is that a gimme, right?
Jordan Hudson's favorite show is now on the air. Gas, Gresh, Anik, Morning Drive. How the hell are you, everybody? We have some football to preview. We have some football to recap. And joining me now is Joe Jitsu, who almost had to save himself at Dirty Boxing over the Labor Day weekend. That would be Jason Anik. Jay, how you doing?
Joining me live on the line. Good to be with you. Gresh, I'm back in the studio finally. We redid the floors. What's that, Bilton Hoodsworth?
Bilton Hoodsworth. That's my name for Belichick, and I got the hoodie working today. It didn't work so well last night, but Bilton Hoodsworth, Bilton Hoodstein, either way.
So we redid the floors in my house, so I was sort of on the laptop for a little. Now I'm back, and I sort of reset up the studio, and you can speak to this, right? It's so nice when you just have a place to go in your house to do this, as you and I do a lot of content from home. I'm in hotel rooms, so it's kind of nice to be settled in. You feel me?
Yeah, no, I do. And I moved my studio from like one corner of the room to another, figuring that my wife has a walk-in closet that's the size of a room, yet she won't share part of it with me so that I can take I have like a designated walk-in closet area that I could just very easily turn into the studio, and then I can work till 2 a.m. No one's going to get disrupted. If I'm up early, nobody's going to be the wiser, and yet I can't win the battle. She would rather be driven out of the room by me being loud, even though I have kind of set up, faux studio walls around me.
Yeah, I love the studio walls. Cody, give me the solo shot for a minute. This isn't finalized yet. I got some drapes behind me, but I just want you to see. My brother John was actually here this weekend, right? See the Bengals got Bully B behind me. So we're creeping, right? You can go back to the double. I just want you to see a little bit, right? We're doing our best here, but
why the Bengals?
So if you recall, you probably don't recall, but John goes to the Patrick Mahomes golf tournament every year. And so that was an item for bid with Jamar Chase's signature on it. And you can be sure none of the Kansas City brethren were bidding on that. So John bid on it. He got it. I got the Bengals 21-1, 22.5-1 to win the Super Bowl this year. I think their defense is going to be better than a lot of other people do. So, hey, I don't mind repping.
Well, you know what it is that sometimes you just find good value on stuff like that. This is the wildest thing ever. But in 2009, when I lived in Jersey City and was working full-time at Sirius, my best friend Nelson still lived in Jersey. So we would go do like half-ass workouts together, right? And the one day we walked into this gym in New Jersey, and they were doing like a silent auction for whatever. And there was, and I still have it somewhere in the attic, a Scarface poster from the movie signed by everybody, right? And I got it for like $300. It was nothing. No one was like bidding on it. And my man Nelson's like, yo, dog, that's pretty cool. And I'm like, I'll buy it for you. I don't care. And he was like, no, you got to keep that, man. He's like, you got to hang out in that sad sack place you live in. Because I had a condo, a 2-bedroom condo, which was totally fine. It's just that when you decorate as a guy versus decorating as a woman, there's pretty much nothing on the walls. It was more like a flop house. So yeah, we went one day, and I have this like signed Scarface poster that I've had now for 15 years, and it's literally been in a box in my attic and just moved around.
Dude, that'd be nice. Is it in good condition?
It's in unbelievable condition. It's literally in box condition. Like nothing has happened to it. It's never been taken out. No, honestly, like I got it, and my man Nelson was like, "Yo, it's pretty cool, man." And then I moved up here, and I've literally forgotten about it ever since. It's crazy, but it was good value.
Have a little Scott Zolak in him, right?
Oh
like
no.
Well, no. The reason I say that is because your impersonation of Scott Zolak and Nelson, they both do a similar thing to your mouth. That was
no.
why.
Yeah. No. With Zoe, it's just more of the, hey, you work with that other ant guy. He's like the one that people get fooled by. That would be Zoe. Nelson is more of the
Zoe.
Yeah,
I love
Nelson.
all your impersonations, but spent so much time with Zoe. It's such a close personal relationship. That one just is always my favorite.
Yeah. He sent me some kind of text message about something over the weekend. No, but my man Nelson is more hood. His dad's African American, his mom's Puerto Rican. So he has a unique blend. But no, he's been my guy forever. But it's really funny because I try not to talk like Nelson, so I have to eliminate a certain word because, he goes there with me because we've been friends for 30 years and stuff. And I always have to remind myself, it's like I'm on the air if I'm imitating Nelson to make sure.
There you go.
To make sure I don't go full blown because he'll do that with me. But anyway, how was dirty boxing? You almost got tangled into a Donnybrook.
Yeah, well, what's funny is there was real footage of it. For those of you that didn't catch Dirty Boxing 3 in Miami Friday night over the weekend was great. But one of the fighters, after being sort of technically knocked out, was walking around the outside of the cage. Looked to me like he tried to shake the hand of this security guard. They have previous beef, I'll say. And security guard wanted none of the handshake, and so they sort of started going at it. I thought it was absolutely riveting. Right, Cody? Go ahead. Right behind my shoulder there.
It's a security guard. I mean, really? Beef with a security guard.
So
bye-bye, security guard. You worked your last event.
So what I'll tell you, right? Like in the moment, it was riveting. Because it's this boat hangar in Miami. It's a scene. It's cool. The vibe is cool. And I was in the building when Khabib and Conor, had this where Khabib jumped out of the ring, right? And so moments like this in the world are just entertaining. Renato Moicano was there, and you can be sure he loved it, right? At one point later in the night, when Jairzinho Rozenstruik won the belt, Rob Perez, the Wolf, who was drinking platinum tequila all night, cage side, he was supposed to fight for the belt, but he was injured. He comes up into the ring, tries to grab the microphone out of my hand, right? So those crazy moments add color to the event and were a blast. The fights were incredible, but those moments stick out too.
I gotta say that I'm a little surprised that video did not make the absolute rounds everywhere, or if it did, maybe I was just working so much this weekend that I completely missed it. I went back and saw it on YouTube, and it was just kind of funny to me. You guys do the turnaround and just turn and look, but a security guard. Now listen, maybe Dirty Boxing ends up capitalizing on this and throws that security guy in the ring and says, "Fine, you want to go with this guy? We'll let you." We'll let you guys knuckle up and do what you want to do.
You might be joking, but there's a great chance that happens.
I think that'd be amazing. What a prelude on the, when you do your 2.5 minute lead in as to how we got here or whatever.
Gresh, one thing I just want to say real quick. Yeah. These two guys know each other well and have previous beef. So the idea that he's a security guard or whatever it is, isn't, you know what I mean? I feel like this was maybe boiling over. There's a lot of stuff on Instagram you can chase down if you're in that sort of dirty boxing MMA lane. But just there definitely some beef.
Hey, but I'll say this though, you guys had some turnout, like you mentioned. Renato Moicano was there. I saw Shaq was walking through the building. Apparently,
Nate Diaz was there.
Yeah, so people are starting to catch on, and yeah, there's Big Boy with his title. I don't hate the belt. I thought I would. Normally on most organizations, I'm like, those belts are kind of ugly. But I didn't hate that one. And Big Boy is now one of the guys representing the dirty boxing brand as a champion now.
Yeah, and let's just go with the belt real quick because I couldn't agree with you more. I'm sort of picky when it comes to these belts. And oftentimes Gresh, they're really busy and they have like a bunch of different fake gems or whatever, right? They're just like not great to look at. And so this one was really heavy. It came in a dope briefcase, which was really sweet. And he's a big boy, so it works well for him. But I thought it was pretty clean, you know? So, and it's just cool, man. The organization's doing a lot of good things. We talk about bouts of consequence. My brother John saying, well, if you got 45-year-old guys boxing, where are the bouts of consequence? Starting to get some guys. Brian Battle coming over. I know the guy he fought maybe couldn't handle some of that power, kind of clipped him. It wasn't like they just brought in a can. But you got guys like Landon Quinones and Mike Breeden both fought in the UFC. So I think there's some traction. And I've covered a lot of different combat sports. We've talked about the Professional Grappling Federation as well. It's super entertaining when it's punches, elbows, spinning stuff, ground and pound to the finish. It's really interesting.
Well, we now have had multiple kind of offshoot MMA companies now start. I don't know how you consider Real American Freestyle, the thing put together by the late Hulk Hogan and his business guy, Eric Bischoff. They had their first event in Cleveland this weekend where their belt was pretty interesting. The big RAF on it. Holly Holm was a part of that. I think Bo Nickel was a part of that as well. So I think for all these combat sports fighters, listen, UFC is where it is, where you're going to get the biggest paydays. But the fact that you can still apply parts of your MMA repertoire in other leagues to be able to go pick up a paycheck is really great for the fight game overall. You're never going to find anybody that can pay you like you can get at the top of UFC. But as you're working your way up, you're not exactly making a ton of dough. So I also love that these are out there because A, it shows the MMA community is growing, but B, it's also another way for some of these fighters to get a payday, which we should be encouraging so that, you know, people don't end up bailing out on their dream because they got to go work security at the Las Vegas Convention Center 5 days a week.
Well, exactly. And we'll shift to the football quickly, but you have promotions like BKFC, Bare Knuckle, that have done quite well and are probably making a profit right now. But I do think some of these promotions, whether it's jiu-jitsu, dirty boxing, whatever it may be, some of them are going to break through and be able to sort of elevate and become relevant. And hopefully I'll be attached to one of them, but I really like what's happening. It was a lot of fun. I feel grateful for the opportunity.
I think you have to look at it. Yeah, you know what it is? I know we'll get to the NFL, but the industry is growing. That's the way to say it.
Bingo.
I think with MMA. Football is back, obviously. Yeah, we had a real week one in college football where, unfortunately, last night, our great friend Bilton Hoodsworth or Bill B. Hoodstein, whatever you want to call it, took it on the chin against TCU. Came out and had a great first drive and looked good. And then after that, they couldn't run the ball. They couldn't move the ball. Then they had a turnover, go for a pick six. And next thing you know, you're down 20-7. And then it just went way downhill after that. But I'll tell you what, you bring in one guy to change an environment. Look at a North Carolina football game last year and look what they had last night showing out on national television. The lights were blinking. People were dancing. The joint was jumping. It's crazy how just bringing in a well-known football coach has, and yet it hasn't shown on the field, has completely changed the culture and the way fans react at North Carolina.
Yeah, well, not just a well-known football coach, the greatest football coach potentially of all time. But I hope y'all are cashing your Texas Christian University tickets because, gosh, if there was ever a time and an opportunity to sort of cash. I just thought Texas Christian, there was a good opportunity last night. 70 different players on this roster right now. And I think Nick Saban's main point as he was interviewed over and over again, talking about Bill Belichick, was just this stuff takes time. So it'll be interesting to see how Bill Belichick handles this moving forward. But what I'll say as someone who doesn't have the bandwidth for college football, Belichick going 0-1 in that fashion doesn't give me the juice I need to sort of follow this team into week one or if this is week 0 into week one. how I normally would. I mean, I added them to my favorites in these apps so I can track this team, but last night doesn't keep me super interested, Andrew.
Well, give it a week. They're playing Charlotte, formerly known as UNC Charlotte. They've now just, I guess, cut it down. So they've got Charlotte and Richmond the next 2 weeks. Now, as someone who played in actually Richmond used to be in the CAA. From what I was told, when the commissioner changed the league name from the Colonial Athletic Association to the Coastal Athletic Association, apparently the people at Richmond were like, yep, we're out of here. We don't like this guy. And they ended up going, I think, to either like the Patriot League or something like that. So they're working with less scholarships now. So I think the next 2 weeks, UNC should be okay and maybe kind of suck you back in a little bit before they take on UCF. And then first weekend of October, North Carolina takes on Clemson, and that defensive line, which is pretty good. But I know that in week 0, technically they call it, we had the Iowa State, Kansas State deal, and there was Jordan on the sideline last night.
Pre-game, post-game?
Pre. Didn't see her very much. When they did the first touchdown, or when North Carolina scored the first touchdown, and there you go, and they went to Jordan, and LT was there.
Well, Randy Moss, right? It's interesting. I'm watching. I call my wife in the room because I'm laughing. My wife loves Jordan and what she, the empire she's building. But I'm like, director, cut to Jordan, whatever her name is. But no, it was Randy Moss was celebrating that touchdown. So whether they were going to Randy Moss or Jordan, either way, well played by the director.
They were all in a big suite apparently, because it was either in the one they were in or the next one over is where they went to the shot of, how about this for UNC royalty? Michael Jordan standing beside Roy Williams, standing beside Lawrence freaking Taylor. And then they went to the other shot and it was like, oh, Randy Moss is there. And then they're like, oh, there's the girlfriend.
Do you think after last night, there's any part of Bill Belichick that is just thinking himself, yeah, maybe I would have seen what might have been creeping in the National Football League? I'll tell you right now, I think look, unless I just don't know how patient he's going to be at the University of North Carolina, right? It wouldn't shock me if it's one and done and he's back in the big show next year.
Well, you know what's interesting, Jay? Before the game, there was a lot of, there are some tells from Bill if you've been around him for a while. And sometimes he'll speak definitively as in, yes, I know we've got something buttoned up. And then there are times where he'll him and haw. And the pregame interviews, he was doing some hemming and hawing, and then gave Holly Rowe a "we'll see." As soon as he said "we'll see," I'm like, oh shit, this could go real bad. And he maybe knows it, because he wasn't speaking definitively about the football team very much. It was very open-ended, and they went out and just completely let him down last night. But to Nick Saban's point, Jay, he's 1,000% right. There's so much new going on that it really would have been a Herculean effort to have that team up, running, ready to go for week 1 with so much new. And look, we all, especially you and I, we all got wrapped up in the story of Bill going down there and taking over. And now it is, oh boy, the reality might be that they're not that great. And defensively, they had issues. And I know TCU did the whole, chip on the shoulder. Nobody talks about us. Listen, you could have been playing Mesopotamia State. Sorry, TCU. Nobody was going to be talking about you. You have the WWE version of a football coach in your own conference in Dion. So people are going to talk about that jackass before they talk about, boy, old Sonny's got a great one down at TCU. I mean, they're expecting everybody to, be standing there and verbally filleting them while moving their tobacco spit from one side of the mouth to the other. Like Sonny Dykes came across, I thought at times, as a little whiny bitch. Hey, nobody's talking about us. They wouldn't have been anyway, brother. So anyway, they used it to their advantage. And it worked out, but our guy Bill took it on the chin last night in Chapel Hill.
Well, so We'll shift to the NFL. I'm down here in South Florida, obviously, so big win for the University of Miami, all over Notre Dame, all about the U down here. Go ahead.
Carson Beck looked like a potential top 5 pick in that game. I thought his poise in the pocket, choices with the football. I got to watch a lot of that Miami Notre Dame game. Tied at 24 after Notre Dame grabs some momentum and gets a touchdown. He leads them down to get the game-winning field goal. Yeah, I thought Beck looked really good. And here's the thing about Miami. Last year, they have the number 1 overall pick in the draft as a quarterback, right? Like not a left tackle, not a corner.
Yep.
You think you're going to have a really special season. So is Miami better poised to take advantage? If Beck goes in there and plays better than Cam Ward, could they, maybe make the college football playoff and have a chance?
I love it, dude. So I'm so anxious to talk to you about the NFL. And for those of you that don't know me, like I could sit here on college football, we could sit here and talk about college football. For me, it just doesn't move the needle as much as the NFL as week 1 creeps. So, Gresh, I guess I want to start the NFL talk by asking you just sort of a simple question. We could bounce all over the place. But what's your handle? Like, what is your NFL gambling sort of situation like, right? We've talked about Survivor contest, different things I got going on, whatever it is, but what is a week 1 gambling season, gambling future? Talk to me a little bit about the betting for AG3.
Okay, so for me, I locked in a Cowboys to not make the playoffs ticket a long time ago. I think I got that at minus 190 for the Cowboys to miss, and then they trade Micah Parsons. Thank you very much. Now that number, I think, is in the 300s. So I'm feeling good about that. I do have a Patriot over 7.5 from earlier this year because I do believe they're at bare minimum an 8-win team. If not, maybe even, maybe they actually pull off the 9-8 winning record this year. And in terms of this week, I will wait really until like Wednesday or Thursday to really dive in. And the reason look, on the opener, I'm anti-Cowboys, so I'm all over Philadelphia minus 7.5. I think they cover that number pretty easy. And if you're Dallas, it's kind of like, okay, how do we get ourselves? It was to the 8.5 now. So
Parsons moved the line.
So moved it a 1.5 ultimately because I think a lot of people jumped on it. I will tell you this, Jay, that Chiefs-Chargers game, I'm very much Chiefs are going to win. I'd probably lay a little more to get the money line, maybe just to protect myself. But I'll tell you why I don't like betting these games that are in foreign countries. London's a little different. But when they're going to like Mexico City or Brazil, or if they go somewhere where somebody can like have a glass of water and then completely turn around and have the trots and maybe miss the game, too much weird stuff can happen in Brazil and stuff like that. So for me, I'm staying away from the Chiefs and the Chargers. And then for the rest of the Sunday card, quickly, I'll dig in more on Thursday. And I'll tell you why, because I don't want the first injury report to really look. I want the second injury report. Like we're sitting here waiting to see if Christian Gonzalez is going to be able to give it a go for the Patriots, right? That's kind of a big deal, even though the other team doesn't really have wide receivers. I don't care what's happening on Wednesday. I start carrying on the injury report on Thursday, and then I can start to kind of handicap Sunday a little better. Jefferson hasn't played for the Vikings. That's a good one from Cody. So some of these injuries during the preseason, like Wednesday, it might get they were limited. Okay, what are they on Thursday? Because that's where you really have that second practice day where you can truly find out if someone is going to be able to go out there and give it a go.
So you talked about the Friday game. My brother said to me yesterday, don't you think Patrick Mahomes is just going to be angry and just hunting? And I think there's a good chance of that. So when you brought up Kansas City Chiefs money line, that tickled me a little bit. That matchup, the Chargers to me are a very difficult team to handicap and sort of have been over the last couple of years with Herbert. Now, even with Harbaugh in there, sometimes Harbaugh plays this very old school football style of football, which is a little bit difficult for me to handicap. But in terms of the Thursday game, hard for me not to like Philadelphia.
Right.
And I love Micah Parsons. And I love the fact that until this year, dude was showing up, playing for whatever dollars were in the contract and keeping his mouth shut. And so, gosh, if there was ever a guy that Dallas should have handled differently, I think he's the one. But I do think sometimes just the fact that that distraction is gone could be a good thing for the guys in the locker room. I'm not saying it's great for what's going to happen on the field. I think it could have been a very dominant defense in Dallas. But what I'll tell you is my mindset, because I'm heavily invested in the Circa Survivor contest.
Yeah.
My mindset is very focused on that, right? So when I think about this first game of the week, Gresh, I'm really thinking about whether or not I want to put the Eagles in the Survivor contest, right? I don't have to do an NFL preview this year with my brother John. You know what I'm saying? So you sort of, whatever you need to prepare for. So I've prepared heavily for this Survivor contest, mapped different things out. But I really do like the Eagles week 1, Gresh. And I'll say quickly, the only reason I'm not as heavily on them, maybe in a Survivor standpoint, is because I feel like I need to save them for one of the holiday weeks. But I do like Philadelphia, certainly for me as a parlay piece. And I do like a team to want to win the night they raise the banner.
Yeah, I think all of that really makes sense. And if you're the Cowboys, first-time head coach on the road, you took away his best defensive player a week before it was all going to start. It's not exactly the easiest situation for Brian Schottenheimer. Now, again, he knew what he was walking into, I think, in dealing with Jerry Jones. But yeah, even though that number has moved, it was a solid 7 before Parsons got traded, and then it went to 7.5, and now to see it go to 8.5. That number is only going to get bigger towards kickoff. So if you haven't locked in Philly already, then you really got to be confident that they're going to be able to cover that number. And I think they're winning by 2 touchdowns. Philadelphia. I do. I think there's wiggle. I think you can go all the way to 10 with Philadelphia and still feel okay that your bet's going to cash.
I like it. So I want to go through each game a little bit quickly, but before we do that, if you don't mind just humoring me, right?
Of course.
Quickly from a Survivor standpoint, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to give you like 3 or 4 games, and just to give me sort of, so you have the Cardinals -6.5 at the Saints as one big favorite. Yeah. Okay. Go ahead. Elaborate on that vomit a little bit.
It's calamari.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. There you go. Okay. That's enough. So, for me, right? A lot of people like the Broncos hosting Tennessee. They're the biggest favorite on the board, -7.5. I do. I guess from a Survivor standpoint, does that game scare you? Can you see any scenario where you wake up Monday morning and Cam Ward won his first NFL start on the road at Sean Payton?
No, I don't think that's. Yeah, I don't think that's happening. I think the Broncos are very safe, and I didn't do. Now that I have more time on my hands, I might do a look-see of number 1 overall quarterbacks drafted, like Cam Ward, like where was Bledsoe's first game? You know what I mean? And then kind of what they did. I bet you we might find a pattern of overall. Maybe I got something in my little research packet here. I was going to say, when you get to, number 1 overall picks and kind of how they start their career, how they start the year, I would not expect Cam Ward to lead a 4-win football team into Denver with competent coaching. If they were Nathaniel Hackett, I might be like, be a little nervous. Sean Payton's not going to soil himself on week 1.
Yeah, and I don't love Callahan father and son combo necessarily either. I have a lot of confidence that the Cincinnati Bengals go into Cleveland and find a way not to lose week 1 again. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I would probably, for as much as I like Denver, I feel really good about Cincinnati going into Cleveland. Cleveland feels like, first of all, they're going to start Joe Flacco. So if it turns into a shootout, which it likely won't, Cleveland is not made for that. If this game gets in the 30s, Cleveland is not made for that. And I think you have divisional familiarity. Now, Jay, I know there are those, there was a thing the other day that I saw on Survivor myths, right? And one of them was about in-division games, trying to stay away from them. I'm kind of the other way. Where am I going to have more intel? Like Baltimore and Buffalo? Or do I have lots of intel on the Bengals and the Browns because they play each other twice a year? I think you have more information when it comes to now you are assuming a level of risk in those divisional games because, even we in the heyday of New England, Jay, have seen like Miami or Buffalo pull an upset along the way during the regular season. But week one, Bengals, what is that? -5.5? Sign me up for that all day long.
Your point's very well taken, and we've talked a lot about zigging when other people zag, but I think the key is really in terms of these division games is to pay attention to what your biases are, right? So, and not be biased one way or another, to not eliminate a game. Oh, it's a division game. I don't know. These things can be close. Sometimes division,
right?
But right to not just but to look at each game individually and look for the opportunities. I think that's really the key. But I agree with you. I like the Buffalo-Baltimore game. I'm sure that I could find you many, many smart handicappers on both sides if forced to play that game. All right. So as we go through the slate,
can I give you another suggestion to consider if you haven't already come up with it yet? No one has given Aaron Rodgers any respect. He's a under 3-point favorite. He's a 2.5-point favorite on the road at the Jets. Jay, you and I have watched New England football for 30 years, if not longer. When have the Jets ever gotten anything right? They don't. And look, that game is now, what is that? Is that a 1 or a 3? Okay. I was going to say, I'm like, wait, it's down to 1, but no, Pittsburgh -3 against a Jets team who ain't going to be able to score. Thank you, Cody, for my old eyes.
A lot of sharp handicappers that I've talked to agree with you about the Pittsburgh Steelers, you can be sure. The only thing that gives me pause there is Aaron Rodgers coming back in town and just the little bit of adrenaline and juice to play for Aaron Glenn and the wild card that is Justin Fields, right? Look, more people are going to tell you that he doesn't belong as a starting quarterback in the NFL than will tell you otherwise. But it's not, Gresh, it's not like you're going to be completely shocked. Maybe you would be completely shocked if the Jets win that game.
Because I think Justin Fields blows. And I was out on him from the very beginning. Again, that was that whole Mac Jones class. You have no reason to trust that guy. And you're right. You know what? Maybe you get good Justin Fields for a half. Him putting together a full game. And Rodgers also has a point to prove, too. There are a lot of people out there.
I'm with you.
Yeah, there are a lot of people out there who are screaming that, this guy can't play. But I would just say that if you haven't narrowed down already, that would be one I would co-sign on. The Jets winning week 1. We've never lived in that world.
So one thing I just want to mention quickly before we move on to the Patriots, you had talked about whether, I'm not sure if it was on our show or otherwise, but to what extent in these contests, these Survivor contests, you look to just sort of fade a bad team, right? For those of you that don't know, in a Survivor contest, you have to pick just a team to win a game every week, but you can't use the same team twice. So, Gresh, we talk about whether it's Saints, whether it's Browns, what these teams are that we may want to fade, right? So I just want to, to me, the worst quarterback situations in the NFL or the worst starting quarterbacks, Spencer Rattler of the Saints, Joe Flacco and the Browns. I actually kind of like Daniel Jones on the Colts more than most, Russell Wilson on the Giants, but those are like the 4 worst quarterback situations, in my opinion. And I bring it up in the context that I feel as though the quarterback situations, at least on paper going into week 1, feel more stable than they have maybe in the past, where you could look at maybe 6 to 7 to 8 quarterback situations and be like, I don't know. Go ahead. Looks like you were going to say
something. But I understand what you're vibing, and Justin Fields would be a perfect example of that, because I would throw him in that, grab bag of yuck that you were just talking about. But now we're getting to the point to where it's, former first round picks who are now at the bottom of the quarterback food chain, let's say. So it makes it feel different, right? If it were, undrafted Joe from Mesopotamia State who was going to be starting for the, for the Saints, then we would look at it and be like, holy crap. At least with them, it's Rattler. He's been in the league a little bit. Like it's not like you're bringing in, a UFL quarterback just to kind of get you through a couple of weeks.
I agree. And what gives me pause, obviously, is like the Giants defensive line is going to, with some of these teams, right? Let's say you want to fade the Giants. I'm not in the business of fading the Giants this season. I think potentially they have 3 capable quarterbacks. But like Spencer Rattler on the Saints, what's the ceiling there? And Joe Flacco on the Browns. To me, I'm not suggesting these two teams are tanking, but you got Arch Manning lurking. I know he didn't have a good first week, but you know what I mean? So you think about the Saints and you think about the Browns, whatever it may be. So those are a couple of teams that I think as a Patriots fan last year, we kind of hoped that Drake May would play well and they would lose the game. So I guess as I think about the Survivor contest and put a bow on that, in terms of teams I'm trying to fade, I don't think there's a big handful right now of easy teams to fade. Maybe it'll look different after week 1.
Yeah, I think some of it is really matchup dependent. Like you might not fade the Jets every week, but in this spot, home opener, Steelers, little juice from Rodgers coming in, that would be, that's one where you consider. Because I think to your point, Jay, we will find the 4 worst teams in football, and from a Survivor standpoint, a lot of people will go that route, and then it becomes matchup dependent, right? Like, I really believe New Orleans is tanking. I think they know they suck. I think they want to suck. Because potentially, even though Arch Manning did not blow doors at Ohio State, getting Arch Manning on that football team changes that organization. For those
changes the economy potentially of the city.
Well, it's funny that you were, because literally, do you know what I was going to? Do you remember on draft night when New Orleans got Zion Williamson and they went to the room of people who were jumping up and down, and there was like a salesperson that fainted because they're like, holy shit, we're going to be able to sell stuff now because of Zion. That's kind of what New Orleans sort of needs. And I found the number. You ready for this? First overall pick quarterbacks. In terms of Cam Ward, quarterbacks drafted first overall in the common draft era, which they consider from 1967. They are 4-15-1 in their record in the season opener as a rookie. But listen to these. So 4-15-1. Caleb Williams last year, David Carr in 2002, John Elway in 1983, and Jim Plunkett in 1971 were the only guys. So basically, it's about every 20 years, somebody, some number 1 pick ends up getting the win. Last year, it was Caleb Williams, which is the whole, it shows it can be done. But if you go by history, 71, 83, 02, and 24, I mean, it's basically every 20 years, one of these youngs comes in and ends up getting the win. So just in terms of the sheer data, right? What do the numbers tell us about situations with Cam Ward? And you know what I would love to do? If I could have sent off a little, if I'd picked this up before and sent a little email, I would love to know from the stats and info people, excuse me, the number 1 quarterbacks on the road versus, like did Caleb Williams win that game at home? Did David Carr win that game in Houston? Was Elway in Denver for his very first game? And then Plunkett all the way back in the 70s. I don't even know if we can compare it all, but I would probably say the record of those guys on the road, not good. So, that also further emboldens people to go in on the Broncos against the Titans.
Yep. And one thing I'll say before we move on to the Patriots, I don't love playing totals generally, but I do feel as though when I look at the NFL week 1, sometimes picking a side can be challenging. So I do tend to look at totals a little bit more week 1, because I think getting a feel for a football game can be a little bit easier than trying to pick a side sometimes. For example, Jets Steelers, I don't even know the number. I really
under, it's 38. It's 38.5. Yeah.
So anyway, so all right. So the New England Patriots.
Here we go.
I'll let you go, but I guess I just want to say overall, I'm very excited, but I am going to be patient because I think they probably are going to be some real growing pains this season. And I don't know how high the ceiling is. I'm really excited to watch Mike Vrabel lead them. And I really hope that Drake May protects his brain more than anything else. But my enthusiasm for this season and this team, in a way, as it builds closer to the season, has been curbed a little bit because I'm not quite sure they're ready yet. So anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, no, defensively, I think they're lucky they're playing the Raiders week 1. If this were Cincinnati or somebody that can roll or maybe like Houston, somebody that can roll a real 3 wide receiver set at you, because we don't know what's up with Christian Gonzalez. So that's what giving me pause is the back end of the secondary right now, or the back end of the defense. And I think they're fortunate that they're playing a team who really, they have a good running back who we don't know how much he can catch it out of the backfield. They have an elite tight end in Brock Bowers, and then they got Jacoby Myers. And then after that, there's really not a lot of people that really worry you with the Raiders in terms of skill position. If this were a team that played a lot of 3 wide and had like Chase and Higgins playing both on the outside, then you would end up there would be some real meat sweats going on, I think, for Mike Vrabel. But the Raiders want to play. Pete Carroll hasn't changed. He wants to run the hell out of the ball, and I just think that's where the Patriots are ready. They invested in the defensive line, they invested in more linebackers, and I feel good that the Patriots front 7 will be able to handle the Raider run game enough that it doesn't turn into play action city and it looks like Gronk running down there with Bowers.
So you see the lines move to 2.5. So maybe some people gobbling up the 3 points, as I did on the Las Vegas Raiders, really just because I think potentially it's going to be a rusty week for both teams. So Cody had asked us to sort of predict the first month of the season, right, for the Patriots, right? And so I'm just going to quickly go through these games. I hope it's accurate, Cody. I'm trusting you here, right? So we got home to the Raiders, at Dolphins, home to Pittsburgh, home to Carolina, at the Bills, and home to the Saints. So for the first 6 at home, without predicting all these different games, I think there's some difficult games to predict in there. I think the Dolphins, Steelers, and Panthers in the middle there are really tough. I think their first 4 games are against teams that could very well have similar sort of seasons to them, right? At the Bills, you could pencil that in as a loss, and home to the Saints, you could pencil in as a win. But hard for me not to think maybe they go 2-2 in those first 4. So I guess if you're telling me they're going to be 3-3 through 6, I'd take it. Andrew?
Yeah, I think they're starting 3-1. I really do. I think they're beating the Raiders. Vrabel's not blowing it on week 1. The Dolphins suck. And I know they're going down there in the heat, but the Dolphins are soft. Now, here's the thing about the Dolphins. Where are they with Tyreek Hill? Miami plays week 1 and Tyreek Hill is out there doing Tyreek Hill things, and the Patriots don't have Christian Gonzalez. That's a big mitigating factor. But I still think team to team, the Dolphins are just soft. Mike McDaniel will be the first coach fired. You can't live in the NFL losing to a thermometer, and that's what the Dolphins do.
Well,
and then they get the Steelers. Now, that's the one that's the one that I've got circled as like a real danger game, because the Patriots are going to play the Panthers, and another tight pants wearing offensive coach. Ooh, he farted in an elevator with Sean McVay. Yeah. Go hire Dave Canales, one of the real fucking greats. Like, seriously, like, oh my God.
Hilarious. No,
this guy, I
like him, but you're hilarious.
Oh my God.
And I love when you drop the F-bomb.
He can call plays, and I can see the outline on the pants. Wow. That's what people want. Stupid. So anyway, I think it's 3-1. Remember, Mike McDaniel was a guy that people were doing. Oh, he's so cute in his capri pants. Yeah, he loses to a thermometer. Get out of here. Brian Flores wasn't losing to a thermometer, I'll tell you that. But he was too mean to the prick. That's what you need. That's why Gerard Mayo's playing golf right now instead of coaching a team. But anyway, I really do feel good the first month of the season because two of the opponents I have zero respect for. And last year would have been, oh my God, could they even beat the Panthers? This year with Vrabel, I am back to expecting to beat bad teams like that.
Oh, I like the way you put that. I can't wait to watch this guy. I'm excited to watch him handle the adversity after some losses. Mike Vrabel. There's varying opinions on Drake May's ability to lead, and that's something that I'm very anxious to watch because I'm very patient in that department. But I really feel as though week one matters a lot, right? When you talk about 3-1, a big part of that is you're very confident in what they're going to do in week one. And for me, it really feels like a coin flip when there are so many variables, not unlike Bill Belichick with 70 new players in North Carolina, right? Like even Milton Williams, I'm anxious to watch him play for my team, and see how he produces week one. Christian Gonzalez, you bring up, is a big point. How involved, who are the receivers that are going to get the footballs? How many snaps is Stephon Diggs playing? I just think there's so many unknowns, but I can't wait.
Well, I'm with you because if Gonzalez can play and he's not as hurt as some say he is, that is really the biggest kind of factor in all of this. Because, Jay, I want you just listen to this, okay? And if you do the whole win-loss along the way, here are the first 8 opponents: Raiders, Dolphins, Steelers, Panthers, Bills, Saints, Titans, Browns.
And I know, and when we look, to interject real quick. Go ahead.
Okay. They're going to be 5-3, if not better.
Well, right. And it's like you talk about 3-1, but even, let's say, just 6, 7, 8.
And then they get the Falcons.
You can't win, right? I mean, if I honestly feel like if you're going to make the postseason this year, you got to win 6, 7, 8, 9 and go 4-0 in that stretch, right, Gresh?
Oh yeah. If there is any thought of playoffs, you cannot lose Saints, Titans, Browns. Those should be automatic. And then after that, it's the Falcons, who are not great. And I wonder if old man Arthur Blank is sitting there on his yacht, when his Falcons are like 3-5 and saying, "Oh, I should have hired the old dickhead." He's sitting there. Everybody rallied around and knew the coach that would tickle my fancy, but this guy Morris isn't getting it done. Because Atlanta could be an 11-win team or a 7-win team. I think there's huge variance there with the Falcons.
I agree completely, and I think it depends a lot on the quarterback more so than the head coach. What do you think of Penix Jr.?
Waste of a pick for them. I mean, they had a guy who was functional enough in Cousins, but, they sacrificed to get there to be able to draft the kid. So now they're going to – and by the way, Arthur Blank, after all those people around there – all found a way to save their job, they then turned around and didn't kind of clue in the owner that maybe they were going to take a quarterback at number 8 overall after he had just handed, $60 million guaranteed or whatever it was for Kirk Cousins. So, I wonder about that Atlanta situation. And then just relative to the Patriots on the back half, the Buccaneers are going to be tough, if for anything, because you're going to Tampa and you're dealing with Baker Mayfield. So, I'm not feeling good about that Patriots-Bucks game. Right now, I feel really good about the Patriots beating up on the Jets. Then they get the Bengals, and then the wild card Giants. To your point, Jay, on the Giants, who is the starting quarterback at that point in time?
Bingo.
Have things gone well enough for Russ to keep his job, or have they already gone to the kid? If they've gone to the kid, then that's a real mitigating factor. That's a real big factor in that game.
Totally agree. And in that game, if you're telling me week 13, if it's Russell Wilson or Jameis Winston, I love the Patriots. If it's Jackson Dart, I think it's a coin flip.
Mm-hmm. I'm kind of with you on that. And then the Patriots host the Bills on December 14th. Of course, their bye comes in December, which doesn't help New England at all.
Patriot fans, that week 15 game is going to – if the Patriots don't throw up all over themselves this season, that's going to be a very big game, I think, in week 15, hopefully.
And then they're losing to the Ravens. I think the Ravens are going to the Super Bowl out of the AFC. And I've been very slow to come around on Lamar Jackson, but I think they finally kept a group together for 3 years around Lamar, including an offensive coordinator. This is year 3. And I think that's that's a real big factor, I think, for someone like Lamar Jackson. Then the Patriots get the Jets and the Dolphins. And they get the Dolphins coming up here on January 4th. And guess what it'll be? Cold. So I'm almost expecting a win in the last game of the regular season. So, hell, maybe I'm a little too bullish, but I've already got, 5 or 6 on the board already. And then, look, what are the things that could derail this team? Clearly injuries. If the O-line is still leaky, or Drake May isn't that. And it's interesting, Jay, because the more people that I talk to, Mike Vrabel made a joke about, we got a lot of rats around here. There are a lot of people. There are a lot of people that talk up there. And it's now becoming, I'm now hearing from people, I hope he'll be okay. I hope he'll be good. I hope he'll turn into a leader. Because everybody sees the natural skills, but Jeff George could throw it a country mile. You couldn't win with that guy at quarterback. I'm not saying that that's what's going on necessarily with Drake May, but you know what I'm not hearing, Jay? I'm not hearing enough from people, that guy's an MFer. Oh, that guy will rip your heart out. Oh, that guy will steal your lunch money. He's deep down, there's a mean son of a bitch in there. Like, I really believe on the football field, one of the things that I now appreciate more about Tom Brady was that he wanted to rip your goozle pipe out. Yep. He just did it with a smile. Well, so I don't know if Drake May has the I want to rip your goozle pipe out in him.
You've been saying this for 44 episodes or however many we've done. Close, and so you're consistent, and it's also you have receipts from a long time ago with this. And I think it's a very good point, and I like it more now than maybe I did 40 episodes ago. But what I will say is I agree with you completely. And I'll also say, I'm not concerned about anything other than that, right? Like, I really do, right? When you first talked about him being an MFer, I was like, I think maybe he is, but I'm with you now. I'm not sure if he is, but the leadership, I'm not concerned one iota. The physical skills, staying as a quarterback and not running and running when he needs, I'm not worried about any of that. Like, I believe the leadership will come, but to your point, that I think might be what takes him to the next level or doesn't if he can get in touch with that dark place.
Yeah, I agree. And Josh McDaniels will bring it out in you. And that's why let me pull back the curtain for a second. Okay. Last year when I was working with Fourier in radio in Boston, we reached out to McDaniels. Because there were we had Dante Scarnecchia on, and one of our viral clips blew up on him, and he unplugged coming on with us. Right? It's just too much hassle. He gets out there. The Jets heard something that they didn't like, and his kid worked there. But we had reached out to McDaniels, and his, I do believe, response was, "No, I just kind of want to keep everything kosher with the Crafts right now." And that kind of made Christian and I go, wow, it's interesting for him to be protective of that relationship. Right. And we now find out that he's once again the offensive coordinator. So it is interesting with McDaniels. He made sure, don't jump in the media, stay quiet, protect yourself, protect your brand, which they did. And ultimately, he's right back through that door as the offensive coordinator here. And, whether it's Belichick, whether it's the past, whether it's Brady, whatever, we know this guy in that role is pretty elite. He's good at what he does in terms of calling. People will be like, I don't want him as my head coach. Yeah, but as his offensive coordinator, I think you take him because people will be like, oh, what about the Rams? I'll be like, look at what he's done here. Shut up. People, I think, look for the perfect coach. You know what I mean? Like, oh, it's a guy who's never failed who I want to bring in here. And it's like they all do because everyone does in life, for God's sakes. But I think with McDaniels, he's going to know how to nurture this kid And maybe at least initially it's going to be Vrabel who's going to be the one to try to get him to that place. But McDaniels has the ability to do so as well.
I agree.
I think we're really blessed that he's the OC.
Couldn't agree more. And I do believe like there are certain guys just that are better staying in their lane, whether it's Steve Spagnuolo with the Chiefs, I think is a better coordinator than head coach McDaniels. Most certainly. I just don't think is that head coach leader of men type guy. Who knows? Gerard Mayo maybe could have been a phenomenal defensive coordinator in this league had he never stepped foot in the head coaching bucket. Before we move on to baseball, Gresh, I know we didn't plan to do like Super Bowl predictions. It's not like some crazy preview show.
Oh, I'm ready.
I bet you are. So I think we should both. I don't even know right now, but let's see who enters the Super Bowl and who emerges victorious. Go ahead.
Well, I think it's Ravens Eagles this year. And I really do believe that the Ravens are going to get over the hump. And if I'm not mistaken, when I looked at Ravens Eagles Super Bowl matchup earlier this year, it was like plus 1,800 or something to try to go under exact matchup on DK. But yeah, I've been pretty firm on Philly and Baltimore this year. I just look at the NFC and I don't know who's going to be the real challenger. Detroit's lost both coordinators. And as we know around here, that's a real big deal. So a lot of pressure on Dan Campbell to keep that going. I know Green Bay went and got Micah Parsons, so people think maybe they have jumped up. I thought they were barely a wild card team. I'm not the biggest Jordan Love fan because the numbers show that when Jordan Love's got to throw the ball more than 30 times in a game, you're getting a pick or two. So if he can clean that up, then Green Bay might be able to really jump to the next level, and maybe they're the challenger in the NFC Championship game. But otherwise, Jay, in the NFC, I just don't know who's coming for Philly. I really don't. And if it's Minnesota, you're doing it with essentially a rookie quarterback. Like, you got to treat J.J. McCarthy like he is a rookie and put all those metrics in there. So I'm not big on – a lot of people are big on Minnesota. I am not as big on Minnesota. I think Washington's going to – they won 12 last year. I think Washington slides back to be a 10-win team but still makes the playoffs. There's just, to me, nobody in the NFC I think that is – poised and ready to go into Philly, which is what you'd have to do, and go beat that team.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Stafford's health gives me pause on the Rams. I like that team very much. I think if that game hadn't been in the snow, they got a great chance to win it in last year's postseason. I'll go Bengals, Packers. I like the Ravens very much. You're going to get much better value in the books on the Bengals than you are the Ravens. I just believe in Joe Burrow a little more than I believe in everyone else. And I feel as though if they can get the defense somewhat right, I believe he sort of has this Michael Jordan quality to him. There's a reason he got to the Super Bowl. I expect him to get back at some point. And I think the division component with Baltimore makes that a more winnable matchup, as sort of dumb as that may sound, right? So it's like, as much as I like Baltimore, I think Cincinnati, hey, maybe they can win the division and host that game. Division's certainly going to be difficult for both of those teams. I think Pittsburgh will make some noise, but I like the Bengals in the AFC, and I do believe the Packers, that Micah Parsons moves the needle enough. If you're putting a gun to my head, I'm taking Philadelphia. But just in an effort to be different a little bit, I'll go Green Bay. But I think the Eagles have as good a chance to repeat here as we've seen in a long time. And finally, but if I see you chomping, A.J. Brown was interviewed very close to after the Super Bowl last year, and someone asked him about repeating. And he made a comment, and I'm paraphrasing, but talked about, oh, well, it just has to be totally different, is what he said. Something like, oh, it just has to. And that mindset of just sort of, oh, no, if we're going to win back-to-back, things have to change. You almost have to pull a 180. It's like the idea that the same thing is going to work again. A lot of things need to change. So Bengals, Packers, with the Bengals hoisting Lombardi.
Yeah, I can't pick a team that doesn't have any defense. And that's why I stayed away from Cincinnati. They couldn't stop the, gas all-stars. Us too, put your brother in there, put Bone in there. I don't think they can stop us on offense, which is why I stopped short on Cincinnati, because you're right on Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow is the rare guy who can drag his team a round or two further in the playoffs than maybe any other quarterback in the NFL, and that includes Allen and Mahomes. but I just can't get past the fact that I think their head coach is good, not great in Cincinnati. And defensively, I just think they stink out loud. They're going to have to win shoot. Like, there's no quarterback in the NFL, and this is crazy to think about, right? Because if the Bills don't make the Super Bowl, there's a chance their head coach ends up being let go at the end of the year. So some would say Josh Allen has all the pressure in the world on him. I don't think so. I think it's Joe Burrow. No one has to carry more of a load for their football team than Joe Burrow, and it's because his defense stinks. Like, at least Mahomes has found a defense that he knows he could lean on, and if he's got to find a way to get to 23, he finds a way to get there.
Well, good thing it's my pick, not yours. A lot of people think the Bengals defense is going to be worse this year than it was last year, believe it or not. So I am not in that company. Before we get out of here, Boston Red Sox, anything you want to say on the Boston Red Sox?
Who are they? Who? What? There's baseball?
To me, I think at this point, you sort of just hope they sort of stay healthy and stay in the mix and hope that they peak at the right time. But I just want to say, for me on the Red Sox, the story
they're making the playoffs.
Let me finish. The story is Trevor for me. That's okay. Trevor's story, the stability he's provided, right? He was hitting 214 on June 16th. Excuse me, on June 6th, okay? His average right now, 260, 23 home runs, 86 RBIs, 24 steals, hasn't been caught stealing. The most important statistic, he's played 135 games. In his first 3 years in Boston, he only played in 94 games, right? So in those 3 years, right, 43 games his first year, the first 3 years, 94 games in the first year, 43 games the second year, 26 games last year. In those 3 years, 21 home runs combined. So he clips that. 90 RBIs. He's already at 86. He's going to drive in 100 runs. And yesterday, a game they needed, it was him 3 for 4 with a home run. And that's stability, right? It's like you need a lot of different factors. But believe it or not, like, I didn't like that signing, Gresh. And after the first few years, it was like, oh gosh, because he was injured a lot. But when healthy, like, regardless of the dollars, he plugs like that hole. He's been so valuable. So anyway, that's my rant. Go ahead.
This might be the week that the Yankees end up really having the stake driven through their heart relative to the Red Sox and the Yankees in the standings. And what I mean by that is the Blue Jays are at the Yankees. Now the Jays lead the Yanks by 3 in the American League East. And in the month of August, the Yanks were 16-12. The Jays were 15-12. But the Blue Jays lead the season series 7-3. So I'm not saying if Toronto goes in and gets a sweep, but if they do, and the Yanks end up falling 3 games back, now it's not only 3 games, or not only is it further back with the Blue Jays, but now you're falling behind the Red Sox in the wild card standings as well. So as we get to the month of September and you start to look at the schedule, while the Red Sox don't have it easy, you know, you're talking about division and wild card implications now for a team like the Yankees, who will welcome in the Blue Jays this weekend. And who knows what the hell happens this week leading into a series like that, where, you know, the Yanks might be multiple games behind the Red Sox by the time you and I are sitting back here next Tuesday or Wednesday.
Right. Or the Yankees could be leading the division, only 2 games back in the loss column. And that's what's just so interesting. You know, the fact that the division may still be in play. And I think we talked about last week's show, the Red Sox were sort of heavily favored to make the playoffs. And so as long as they sort of stay in the mix, I mean, they absolutely could win the division, right, with a hot month of September.
You're right. And I never would have thought that, because the Sox are 15 games over. Look at it this way. To get to 90, they need, quick math, they need 13 more wins to get to 90 on the year. 90 all but guarantees you're going to be in. So even if they fall short of that, the math is now working in their favor, that even if they just have a mid-level month, let's say they're just 500, but they get 13 wins, now you're looking at a 90-win team heading into the postseason who maybe hasn't quite figured out the starting pitching. I know they bid adieu to Walker Buehler and told him to get the hell out. But at the end of the day, it's really just more about the Red Sox making the playoffs. If they make the playoffs, they've checked the box, and then management will also check the box on, hey, we're going to double down on not spending any money in the offseason because we went young and made the playoffs.
Well, and I like that you brought up the 90 games because 13-10 will get you to winning 90 games. And don't you think they got to do more? Like, to me, if you go 13-10, like, you got to get hot, this team, to have a little juice, right? Like,
well,
to me, if you go ahead.
What they need is, to your point, the bats to get hot. That's what they need going into, like, end of the month of September, just ripping the cover off the ball. I'm not saying that the pitching will take care of itself, but you know who wins in the postseason? Teams that hit homers. And that's why all these teams will load up on big boppers, and they want to get guys that can hit the 3-run bomb because it's a massive momentum shift in the postseason. So, you know, if that all, that's what I need. I need the offense to get hot, to feel good about going into the postseason and thinking that maybe they can make an American League Championship Series.
You know, and quickly, I'll just ask you, it's sort of funny with baseball, the way it works now, where you have the 2 byes for the 1 and 2 seed, because baseball, you know, is a game of rhythm, you know, and I do think you take the Red Sox or the Yankees, let's say, you know, and they get hot and they win a wild card series, and then you're the Blue Jays or you're the Tigers and you're hosting one of these organizations that has a lot of juice and is hot, and no matter how hot your bats might have been 6-7 days ago, I think it sometimes can be tricky with that bye in baseball.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of the whole bye system, and who knows what's going to happen with the playoffs, because Major League Baseball has to find a way to make themselves more entertaining for quote unquote business partners, basically people to pay for the rights to their games, because they've gone, I mean, when you go to Apple and you flop, that is not good for merchandising your wares out there in the great yonder of the internet. But they're going to make the playoffs. And you know me, I'm slow to come around on a Red Sox team. I love me some Alex Cora, but you know, the math is almost undeniable now. They've almost put themselves into a position to where even if they had a losing month of September, say they're just 1 game under, the math is still going to work for them to likely still make the postseason, even if it's as a wild card. So I think Alex Cora, the last 2 weeks of the year, might be thinking more of the, how do I want to set things up for the postseason, than necessarily, hey, I got to do this or do that to be able to steal a win here or there at the end of the year. If you're feeling comfortable, you're thinking ahead. You're not just managing day to day.
And finally, before you get us out of here, right? I love when you do the roller coaster thing with the Red Sox and you do your little wee, right? So, but what I would, correct me if I'm wrong, Andy Gresh is front row of the roller coaster with seatbelt fastened.
Well, now, I think
approach the postseason.
Yeah, I'm now on the on the roller coaster. I didn't pay attention this weekend, but through you guys, I do. Hey, just quickly, apparently, Games with Names, one of the awful Edelman podcasts, he sat down with Ernie Adams, the legend, and they talked about Drake May. And apparently one of the things that Ernie talked about was May staying in the pocket. Now, he's got no skin in the game. Yeah, I mean, Ernie's made enough. He's got more money in the federal government. That's why he's not at UNC working with Bill anymore. But, you know, when he's talking about it's interesting, some of the comments. For those who respect Ernie Adams, and if you want an unbiased professional and his view on what he sees out of Drake May, it's definitely worth kind of taking in. Let's put it that way.
You know, and I'm not trying to go down a rabbit hole, but it really is interesting in terms of staying in the pocket when you have the skill set that Drake May possesses, right? Because in my opinion, last season, 9 out of 10 times, I thought he was making a good decision in terms of when to be a quarterback and when to be a runner. And I'm sure smarter people would disagree, and I'm sure he had some bad moments in those spots, but that's what it's about in a lot of ways, because I think inevitably, if you're not protected, there's only so much you can do about sort of being a passer or staying.
Yeah, I think for May, it really is the stay in the pocket, right? Learn to Tom Brady. Now, I know people people have always been like, what? Because they don't understand the essence of what I'm saying. Tom Brady was one of the most mobile quarterbacks in the NFL. He did it, though, inside of a box. That was the difference. Up, back, left, side, duck around someone, create a throwing lane, stuff like that. You watch I watched a little bit of the Colorado game, and you watch Shedeur Sanders. Some quarterbacks run backwards and get in trouble. Brady always kept the eyes down the field, but was really good at, missing the targets of people that were flying around him and staying in there and finding his throwing lane. That's innate, and I don't think you can teach that to a lot of guys. But how does that develop for Drake May as we move along during the season?
So we moved to 10 o'clock today. Cody's probably like, what are you guys doing? I got to do another show in 5 minutes. I know he's got to do the Anik and Florian podcast. So if you want to double dip, go get some MMA. Yeah, that's part of the reason we're early today. Gresh and I are free flowing, but Cody, sorry about that. But Gresh, you can get us out of here. Get this man off to his next obligation.
Yeah. He's got to go grab that dough. He's going to Red Sox games now. He's putting it out on Twitter. He's buying multiple beers. Christ, that's $40 getting 2 beers at Fenway, for crying out loud. Let alone if he had to pay for parking. I mean, that's $50 if you're lucky. And to take the train in there, yuck. Good Lord. Anyway, that's it for this edition of Gas. Make sure to catch us next week. Make sure to catch Shay on PGF, Pro Grappling Federation. And I'll be nomadically roaming Earth looking for things to do. So until then, we'll see you next week. We're out of here.